Hi there all and welcome to Leanne's Library. I am back after 3 years of being away from YouTube. I've basically been raising my son, who I had 3 years ago, funnily enough. So I just thought I'd try and get back onto YouTube and see how I go for now. But yes, welcome back, or welcome if this is your first time here. I just thought I'd give you an update on what I've read so far this year. I'm not going to go over the past 3 years because I would be here forever. I've read a lot. My background might look a bit different from last time because I've got more books, I've read more books. I just didn't really update YouTube because, like I said, I've been focusing on my little boy. But the first book I read this year was Gideon the Ninth, and what a brilliant way to start the year. It was just such a fabulous book, and I definitely want to read it again before I move on to Harrow the Ninth, because it is just absolutely amazing to read. It's basically one person, a necromancer, and her swords person are competing to become immortal basically and to serve the emperor. The tagline for this book, or the series as a whole, is lesbian necromancers in space. But I will say that the whole space thing, there's only a little bit in this book, so I'm assuming in the next couple of books it's going to be more sci-fi in space kind of thing. The first book, Gideon the Ninth, is more set in a big mansion type of thing where they're competing. Like I say, they do go into space to get there, but that's about it in the first one. So I'm hoping in the second one to see more spacey themes and to see where we go, because I have literally no idea what could possibly come next with this series. I also reread some Terry Goodkind this year. So last year I read the whole Sword of Truth series from The Wizard's First Rule all the way up to Confessor. So I've also read The Law of Nines, as well as the Omen Machine and the Third Kingdom rather. So that's where I'm up to with my Terry Goodkind books as a reread. I am basically rereading them all to get to the Children of Tahara series and the last Nikki book. If you're familiar with the Sword of Truth series and Terry Goodkind's books, I've read them multiple times, the main series that is. But basically I've just done a reread so that I could catch up and completely finish all of the books. Now that Goodkind's passed away, we're not going to get any more, so I do want to have read them all, even though it's going to be sad to say goodbye. I'm looking forward to seeing how it all turned out. I also read the Snow Like Ashes and Ice Like Fire books. I enjoyed the first one, but I think the second one fell a bit down for me. I think it's books that I would have enjoyed when I was a teenager more than now, and I would have appreciated them more back then. And to be fair, I bought them when I was still a teenager, so maybe that was the appeal back then for me. But I don't know, I just couldn't vibe very well with the book, so I don't think I'm going to read the third one, and if I do it won't be anytime soon. I can't see myself reading the third one. I also read Heroes by Stephen Fry, which is brilliant because I absolutely loved the first book he wrote, which was... Yeah, I read Mythos a while ago. I can't remember when specifically, but Heroes was just as good, and I've loved both of them. The first one was more about the gods, this one is more about the people the gods decided to give birth to, mostly Zeus and Apollo, as Greek mythology goes, I guess. But yeah, thoroughly enjoyed that. I really enjoy the way Stephen Fry talks when he writes his books. He's just an absolutely brilliant mind, and I am always excited to read his mythology stories. So, like, from his research, I really enjoyed that. Another book I read, which I know lots of people have been raving about, was The Boy, the Mole, the Fox and the Horse. And it's basically a book you can read over and over again. You can turn to any page and read that page. It's just a lovely little story about these characters, the boy and these animal characters. that just is uplifting and happy and nice, and you can read it with your children. I've read it with my son and he really enjoyed it, and I do read it to him every now and again now anyway, and he likes to have a look through it with me. It's just nice and happy, and it gives you a lot of nice feelings, happy feelings inside. I'd recommend that if you want a nice little read. After that I read Dry by Neil Shusterman. I enjoyed Dry, but I think because I've already read the Scythe series, it fell a bit dry for me, because the Scythe series is just so brilliant. And I know he wrote Dry before, or at least I think he wrote Dry beforehand. And so I think his writing and his plot kind of development got better in those stories. So yeah, I think I rated Dry maybe a 3-star, 2-star maybe. I think it was a 2-star because, like I said, it was okay and I was okay reading it, but it kind of dragged on in areas and I wasn't a big fan. So I think I'll just stick with the Scythe series for now, because I thoroughly enjoyed that series. Another book I read was Kings of the Wild, which was absolutely fantastic. I rated that, I think I rated it a 4, but I might have to up that to a 5 out of 5 stars, because I would definitely read that again, and I'm looking forward to reading is it Wild Rose or Bloody Rose, that's it. I'm really looking forward to reading that too. Kings of the Wild basically follows a bunch of middle-aged men going off on a quest that's probably made for people who are much younger. They've got aching backs, aching muscles that they probably didn't even know they had before. And against all odds, they are going on this quest and surviving things they might not be able to survive normally. And they have, yeah, it was just such a fun book to read, and I loved the characters. My favourite character was Moog, and he was just so eccentric and lovable, and I just want to give him a big hug. But yeah, Kings of the Wild has LGBT rep in it too, and it's just such a fantastic book, and I really loved it. Moving on, I reread A Court of Thorns and Roses, and I hated Tamlin, because I'm rereading. He just treats Feyre so horribly and so that I had to push through this book, because I am desperate to read Akamath and Akawar again, as well as A Court of Frost and Starlight, I think it's called, so I can read the newest book in the series, which I am dying to read. I'm dying to buy it and read it. So I will definitely be rereading the next 2 books soon. I just can't wait to get to the parts that are more fun. If you've read the books, you'll know what I mean. I do not like Tamlin one bit. Anyway, another book that I read more recently was Brandon Sanderson's Alcatraz versus the Evil Librarians. And I haven't read a middle grade book in ages, and it was just so much fun to read this. I really enjoyed it. The idea of librarians being the baddies, and like mind controlling the world basically in a like behind the government kind of way. And it was just so much fun, and I definitely want to read the rest of the series. Going from Brandon Sanderson writing like high fantasy like Mistborn and The Way of Kings to him writing middle grade is just such a big jump, and he's just brilliant at writing everything, I swear. I do definitely want to read more Brandon Sanderson though. Which brings me to The Way of Kings. I reread that recently too. I think I reread that this month actually, in March of 2021. And I really enjoyed reading it. It is daunting because it's such a thick book, but I think because it was a reread and I've already seen some of the things that comes into the story, it wasn't so daunting, and I could just audio it whilst I was doing my crocheting and knitting, and all that kind of good stuff. So I really enjoyed reading Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson as well. And then after that I read Sorcerer to the Crown by Zen Cho, which was another absolutely brilliant book. I rated that a 4 out of 5 stars. Again, thoroughly loved it. It did take about 130, 150 pages, something like that, to actually get into the book. But once you get past that initial setup to the story, it's just brilliant and you have so much fun with it. I think it's when they introduce, what was her name? Penella? I think it was Penella. When they introduce her, that's when the story gets better. And yeah, I just really, really enjoyed the whole story with the familiar aspect of the story, and basically people with magic having familiars, which I just really enjoyed that aspect of the entire story. So I highly recommend that, so long as you can get past the initial 150 pages. I also read Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. I have not touched a classic in ages, but I think I read it in a morning because it's only about 73 pages long. So that was fun. Obviously we all know the plot to Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde these days, and you can see the author trying to hide the fact that, well, you know what happens. I don't want to spoil it for the people who maybe don't know, but yeah, you can see the author hiding the main plot twist, and it was quite funny to see that with everybody these days knowing exactly what's coming. But it was interesting to see the build-up of that and how people don't see what's going on, and it seems crazy to me. But yeah, I really enjoyed it as a classic, and I think I rated it 3 stars because, like I say, I don't tend to enjoy classics too much, but it was a good one and I actually enjoyed it, so all good. And then the last book I read this year was Equal Rights by Terry Pratchett, and I think this is the best Terry Pratchett book I've read so far. Bearing in mind I have only read 3 Terry Pratchett books, like 3 that only Terry Pratchett has written, because I have read Good Omens too. But yeah, Equal Rights was so much fun. It's basically about a young girl who is aiming to become a wizard in a world where the only wizards that have only ever existed are men, and women tend to be witches and use less life-changing magic, I guess. Like, they use simple, like, kind of magics. But yeah, she's basically trying to go to the main school of magic in this world to become a wizard, and they are just kind of laughing at her until she actually shows them that she can use more powerful magic, basically. And so that plot was really fun to go around, and like I say, Terry Pratchett is brilliant, and I think this is where he really got better with his work. And I know Mort is the next book I'm going to read, so I'm very, very excited about that. And I've enjoyed the representation of death so far when I've read Terry Pratchett's work, so very, very excited about Mort when I come to it. So yeah, that's everything I've read so far this year. I am currently reading Northern Lights by Philip Pullman. I'm hoping to read that as well as Subtle Knife, if I can get to it this month. I'm also reading A Deadly Education by Naomi Novik, which it's holding my interest. I'm carrying on reading it, but I think it's a lot's happening, but she keeps on like thinking back into the past and telling us things that have come before instead of staying in the story now, which I think I'm preferring what's happening now. And I know it's probably relevant, but it's kind of annoying me that we keep looking into the past in this specific book. But I'll probably get back to you on what I think about that later. But yeah, I'm enjoying it, but I'll see where I go with it. It's a really good idea though, like they go into this school where there's no teachers, and they go and attend lessons, and they don't need teachers because it's very hard to get into the school, and basically if you get in you're going to do your work. And lots of them die, and it's a really good idea, but at the same time they'd probably be less likely to die if they were homeschooled, maybe. I don't know how it works yet. But all the students being together seems to make them more susceptible to being killed by the weird shadow creatures that are in the story. I think they're called maleficers or something like that. I'm about to run out of space on my camera, so I'm going to have to leave the video there, but that's what I've been reading and that's what I'm currently reading. So thank you for coming and watching this video, and I will see you in my next, and yeah, ta-ta for now, bye!